Have you ever smiled through a day that felt too heavy inside? You answered questions, did your work, and nodded politely, while something quietly ached in your chest. No one saw it. No one asked, and you learned to keep going anyway. Some pains do not bleed. They do not shout. They sit quietly behind your eyes in the pauses between breaths. You look fine to the world, but inside you feel tired in a way sleep cannot fix. Maybe you tell yourself it is not serious, others have it worse. So you stay silent. You carry it alone. But what if the wounds nobody sees are the ones shaping you most? The story is about that quiet hurt, and it is for you. You are not invisible here anymore. They were the kind of person people described as steady, always present, always helpful. They listened more than they spoke, and rarely asked for anything in return. In rooms full of noise, they blended into the background, not because they were unimportant, but because they believed it was safer there. Each morning, they followed the same routine. Wake up, get ready, step into the world with a calm face. They smiled when expected. They showed up on time. They did what needed to be done. To others, they seemed fine, responsible, strong enough. No one questioned them, and that felt like success. Yet beneath that smooth surface lived a quieter self, one that learned long ago to stay hidden, believing survival meant being unseen. That belief quietly shaped every step. Every day asked them to be a little more than they felt. They carried conversations, tasks, and expectations like stones in their pockets. At work, they focused, completed everything, and helped others when needed. At home, they answered messages, nodded, and said they were fine. Inside, it was different. Holding themselves together required effort no one noticed. They measured their value by usefulness. If they were productive, they felt allowed to exist. If they rested, guilt followed closely. They rarely complained. Silence felt easier than explaining feelings they barely understood themselves. Each evening, exhaustion arrived, not just in the body, but in the heart. Something small disappeared every day, a little energy, a little joy. They wondered why doing everything right still felt so empty. They assumed the problem was them. Maybe they needed to try harder. Maybe worth had to be earned daily. They kept moving, hoping tomorrow would finally feel lighter than today, but it never did inside. They often wondered what was wrong with them. Others seemed to handle life without this constant weight, so why couldn't they? They told themselves they were just sensitive, just weak, just not built right. These thoughts stayed locked inside, never spoken, never challenged. From the outside, they looked capable. People trusted them, relied on them. But inside, their thoughts bent inward. Maybe I am broken. Maybe this quiet pain means something is missing in me. They remembered moments when they almost opened up, then stopped. What if someone saw them differently? What if the strength people admired disappeared? So they swallowed the truth again. Late at night, when no one needed anything from them, the feelings grew louder. Sadness without a clear reason. Tiredness without rest. They held their chest and wondered if this ache would ever leave, or if this was simply who they were meant to be. That fear quietly shaped how they saw themselves every single day. They did not expect it to happen on such an ordinary day. Nothing went wrong. No argument, no failure, no sudden loss. Just one more request, one more small demand, and something inside finally gave way. They stood still, hands busy, minds suddenly quiet. The strength they used every day slipped from their grip. Tears came without permission, not loud, not dramatic, but heavy. It felt like dropping a weight they had carried for years. In that moment, they saw the truth they had avoided. They were not tired because they were lazy. They were exhausted from holding everything together alone. Control had kept them moving, but it had also kept them trapped. They leaned against a wall and breathed slowly, afraid someone might see. Afraid, but also strangely relieved. For the first time, they could not pretend anymore. The silence around them felt thick and honest. Something had cracked, yes, but it also created space. And in that space, they felt the faint beginning of something new inside themselves. They sat quietly, trying to steady their breath when someone nearby noticed. Not with alarm, not with questions, but with a calm presence. It was an older person who had seen many quiet storms and learned not to rush them. They did not ask for reasons. They simply sat beside them. The silence felt different now. It was no longer empty. It was shared. In that stillness, the weight softened slightly. After a moment, the mentor spoke gently, as if speaking to themselves. You don't have to be strong here. The words were simple, but they landed deep. For the first time, they felt seen without needing to explain their story. No fixing, no advice, just understanding. That small kindness did something powerful. It reminded them they were allowed to exist as they were. That connection shifted something inside. A simple moment, yet it changed how alone they felt. They walked together a short distance, and the mentor stopped near an old stone wall. Time had worn it uneven. Small cracks ran through the surface, but it still stood firm. The mentor touched it gently and said that broken does not always mean useless. They spoke of mirrors too. A mirror with fine cracks still reflects light. It does not lose its purpose. The light finds new paths through the lines. What looks damaged often holds more truth than something perfectly smooth. The mentor explained that people are similar. Life leaves marks. Pressure creates fractures. But those marks carry stories, strength, and survival. They do not erase value. As the words settled, the character felt something shift. They had treated their pain like proof of failure. Now they saw it differently. The cracks inside them were not signs of weakness. They were evidence of having lived, endured, and stayed standing. That truth stayed with them, quiet, steady, and grounding. They sat with that thought longer than expected. The voice that once judged them grew quieter. Instead of asking why they were this way, they asked what they had been carrying. The answer felt gentle. They realized pain had shaped them, but it had not ruined them. It explained their caution, their silence, their care. For the first time, they allowed compassion to replace criticism. Nothing dramatic happened. The world stayed the same. But inside, something softened. They did not need to erase their wounds to be worthy. They only needed to stop fighting them. They saw themselves differently now, not as broken, but as human. A person is allowed to hurt, to rest, and to heal at their own pace. They did not suddenly become louder or stronger. They simply stopped hiding from themselves. Breathing felt easier. Shoulders rested lower. When pain appeared, they no longer pushed it away. They listened. Outside, life moved on as usual. Inside, something had shifted quietly. They allowed space for rest without guilt. They allowed softness without shame. The cracks were still there, but they no longer defined them. Peace settled in gently, like light through a window, and for the first time. Inside, you may be carrying wounds no one else can see. You smile, work, and keep going while quietly hurting inside. Hear this clearly. Pain does not cancel your worth. It does not make you weak or broken. It means you are human. What you hide is not something to be ashamed of. Your cracks tell a story of survival, not failure. You are allowed to feel, to rest, and to heal slowly. This message is for you. You are not invisible. You matter, even here. More than you know today.